This 30-foot-high billboard went up Tuesday in Times Square. It's part of an advertising campaign by Dhvani, a Portland-based clothing company. Other ads show models putting tape over the Trump lookalike's mouth.
So the intention behind this campaign is to raise awareness for the fact that the Trump administration has unilaterally told doctors and nurses what they can and cannot say at healthcare clinics that provide reproductive health care to women.
Avi Brown, the CEO of Dhvani, spoke to me over Skype. His company sells activewear for women, but they're also activists. The campaign is intended to comment on the Trump administration's changes to the Title X family planning program that prevent health providers from referring patients for abortions if they receive federal funding. He says the company is donating a portion of every sale to nonprofit healthcare providers who lost funding. But Planned Parenthood told the Washington Post it won't accept donations because it doesn't condone violence.
Obviously, there are a lot of people that misunderstand the imagery. They think incorrectly that we're promoting violence in some way, but we are absolutely not. We would never promote or condone violence in any way. The images are symbolic. We intend to raise awareness about this issue.
Avi says this campaign is the first of many, and it's already getting national attention. Trump's son, Donald Trump Jr., took to Twitter to call out the media for not covering the billboard sooner. He says it's hypocritical that a parody video showing a caricature of President Trump shooting members of the media got more attention.
A lot of you were posting about it on social media as well. At last check, our Facebook post about the story now has roughly 1,300 comments. People are also posting about it on Twitter. I saw quite a few tweets like this one. This one reads, at Secret Service, this company is promoting physical harm and violence against our president at Real Donald Trump. Absolutely disgusting. Another user agreed, saying, this is sick. You have no excuse for doing this. Then there are others who don't support the president, but still don't like the ad. This user tweeted, I do not like Trump or approve of him, nor did I vote for him. That being said, I find your advertising image completely and utterly inappropriate and in horribly bad taste. For shame, lead by example and taking the higher road and a positive message, not with hate and violence. Then there are others who do like the ad. This person tweeted, this is so brilliant. Wish more people had the guts to appreciate this instead of just being sheep. Please do some more and push that envelope. Someone else echoed that, saying, awesome activism. Thank you. Well, if you want to weigh in, let us know what you think. You can head to our KGW Facebook page right now.